Hi everyone, I'm PK, as you already know, and here I have Jackie Skein with me, who's a property manager in Brisbane. In this video, for all of you folks in maybe Melbourne, Sydney, or anywhere else, we'll be talking about how to buy a high performance investment property, especially from a rental perspective in Brisbane or surrounds. So if you're looking to buy in Brisbane, which let's be honest, I know most of you are, then hang around till the end of this video because we're going to hopefully drop some pretty golden nuggets and you'll get a lot of value out there. So thank you so much, Jackie, for making time for this. And I'll try to introduce you very briefly, but please let me know if I've missed something. But I'm very grateful that we have Jackie because she's been a property manager for more than 10 years. She's very experienced in large parts of Brisbane. She covers a large span, even all the way down to the Gold Coast in terms of helping investors get the right tenant, get the right rent, really build that passive income. And more recently, she's branched off and done her own thing. She's recently gone it alone and started her own property management business, which I couldn't highly recommend enough. So enough of that, Jackie. Was there anything I've missed that you wanted to cover?
No, thank you for the kind words, PK.
No problem, no problem. So let's get into it. I think the first question that I want to ask, and to this day, people still get confused between property managers and real estate agents. Property managers are not here to try to sell you a property. They're mostly just there to help you find a tenant. But one thing that people don't know, is that property managers can do inspections on your behalf most of the time, completely free of cost. So just talk me through that, Jackie. Let's say I'm based in Sydney, which I'm not, but let's say I'm based in Sydney and I've identified a suburb, let's say Slacks Creek, hypothetically. I'm not going to say whether we're investing there or not, but let's say Slacks Creek, and I found a property. I don't want to have to catch a flight, but I don't want to buy sight unseen. How does someone like you help?
Yeah, so I actually work with quite a few investors every month because obviously it's quite an intense time going out inspecting. You have to build, my perspective, I build a relationship with the selling agent as well, because in the current market, when they're getting multiple offers, like it's better when the relationship's there and it's more transparent if it goes to the offer stage. So generally what will happen, they'll contact me and say, hey, Jackie, looking at this property. I'll generally do like a brief, CMA. This is what I think it would rent for. And then what I've been doing recently with, renovators, I'd say I think it would rent for 450 as it is, or what we could do if we do bathroom, kitchen, paint, potentially we're going to get 550, 600, and they can just weigh it up there. Two options. Sometimes they just send me the details and say, hey, can you book an inspection with the agent ASAP? Otherwise, other times they'll contact the agent and say, hey, my property manager is going to inspect the property. What time suits you? So I'm happy with either option. Sometimes it's easier to just say, hey, Jackie, can you contact them? And then I can just liaise directly. And then, yeah, generally do a bit of a video walkthrough, FaceTime. I'll note, potential maintenance, potential improvements, things that are going to increase the rent. General condition, a lot of properties we're looking at the moment already have a tenant in place. We'll have a conversation about, do we keep the current tenant? Is it at market value, which 9 times out of 10 it's not? And yeah, just run through those kind of things. So yeah, it's something that I am very happy to do on behalf of the client, because I think it's important to build that trust at the beginning. And I just love property in general. So I like to go and inspect and say, oh, it's exciting, buying a property is super exciting. So I get excited for them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so nerve-wracking, especially if you're a first-time investor. You've heard that Brisbane's booming. You've heard that Brisbane is gonna boom for whatever reason. But you're just like, this place is like 1,000 miles, 2,000, 5,000 miles from where I live. How do I trust someone that they're going to do the right thing for me? And you can't really trust real estate agents because their agenda, and there's obviously lots of nice agents, but they're trying to sell you the property, right? That's their goal in life. But a property manager like yourself, Jackie, you're like the middle person. You don't really have an agenda. You're just laying out the facts. Here's going to be the rental. Here's the maintenance. The photos online were fake, or the photos online were good. Here's the video walkthrough. It's just sort of that that really transparent service, which, to be honest, and, I harp on about this so much, you don't need a buyer's agent for. Anyone can contact Jackie or people like Jackie directly, and the service is basically free of cost. Maybe if I just want to target this question, I know everyone's looking in Brisbane. There's sort of 4 broad areas, you could say, in Brisbane. There's Brisbane City Council, which these days you're not really going to get anything under $500,000. Then you've got Moreton Bay up the north side. You've got the Logan City Council, which is a large area on the south side. And you've got Ipswich, which comprises that sort of Springfield area as well on the west. These 4 areas, Jackie, whether it's through your experience or through your networks, can you just talk me through or talk us through the rental market? So capital growth and the housing market are one thing, but the rental market is often quite distinct and unique. So are rents rising for all 4 of these areas? Is it easy to get a tenant? Just walk us through the health of the rental market.
Yeah, so in terms of the health of the rental market, I'm actually going to say they're all pretty, when you're looking at the vacancy rates and rentability and how long properties are on the market, they're actually all fairly similar. The vacancy rates are 1%, or, some parts of the south side and north side under 1%, 0.5%. So in terms of most properties, you list a property online these days, pending it's at market value or even a little bit more ambitious, you're going to get multiple applications generally within a week or 2. So as long as the property presents well online, so I always recommend just like professional photography. It's like $99 for 8 photos. You can use those photos if you ever sell it down the track. People look at the photos. Like, I don't know many people who actually read the whole ad until they've already, looked at the photos and liked it. Every property's as in the last 6 months, is getting multiple applications. The rents is certainly on the rise in terms of, you compare it to 12 months ago or even back in like March, April, they're still, in my opinion, rising. Some areas are, depending on, it actually changes week to week, That's where I'm when I do an appraisal, I'm saying, hey, I think it's going to rent for $500 a week, but the property's not going to settle until January. I would like to re-advise it towards the beginning of January, because it could potentially increase further. So it's a very active and hot market, and the rents are changing literally week to week, but most of them are going up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The rental market is oftentimes very volatile, especially in a place like Brisbane. I remember even like 4 or 5 years ago, it fell as well. So it's not like rents always just by default increase, but right now they have been increasing, which is obviously good for all these investors in Brizzy. One sort of bugbear or fear that people have, especially when buying interstate, is vacancy. And you mentioned that vacancy rates are very low, less than 1% in many areas, and people can find this information out for themselves. It's not difficult. I guess the question that I wanted to ask as well was, many people might already have rental properties, investment properties in Brizzy, and they're seeing that their rents aren't rising, or they're seeing that when the current tenant leaves, it's taking 2, 3, 4 weeks to find a new tenant. And sometimes that's down to just, I won't say incompetence, but maybe laziness from an incumbent property manager. How hard is it to change property managers, or how hard is it to find a good property manager? Just walk us through that process, if you don't mind.
I'm actually going to answer this in 2 parts, because I just want to quickly tell you a really interesting story. So I recently took on a management from a landlord, reached out to me and said, hey, I want you to manage the property. The lease renewal was due to be renewed. They were currently achieving $375. The tenant had only moved in 12 months prior. At that time, in my opinion, of the 12-month prior market, it probably should have been more like $390 for the area based on the comparables and me knowing the area. And then I did a quick CMA on it, because she had issued the lease renewal, but the tenants had negotiated it down. And the tenants only wanted to pay, I think it was like $385 with the other agent, but it was kind of, they were coming on to me. So I just said, hey, can you just withdraw that? Because based on the current market, everything on the market that's a 4.2 in that area is renting for 420, 430, 440 a week. So we are way, way under market value. And, you know, I want to see the market value achieved all the time, you know? It's very important. Like, there's cost, it's an investment, it needs to be producing income. And for a competent property manager, it's actually quite easy to negotiate. Or it can be, depending on the relationship with the tenant, which at this point I didn't really have anything. But we were able to secure a lease at $420 a week on a 12-month lease renewal, because all I did with the tenant was I said, hey, like, obviously introduce myself. Sorry that I have to do this. Like, I'm just built that rapport fairly quickly, but I just sent her all the links to realestate.com. Hey, this one's on for 440. This one's on for 450. You've got a second living area, blah, blah, blah. Explained it to her. And yeah, she was happy. So if you compare the two, she was refusing. She had negotiated them down to $385 per week. And then I've come on, no relationship. And we signed on at 420. So it's actually, I believe it's all behind the scenes, you know. It's easy for a property manager to say, hey, PK, let's keep the rent the same, because it's just easy. The documents are easier, the tenant signs, there's no negotiation, there's no work. So I actually think that's super common, especially lease renewals. Everyone should be increasing their rents in Brisbane, Logan, Moreton, Gold Coast, especially. Like, it's the REIQ came out. In the last 12 months, rents have increased $100 per week on average.
Yeah.
For 2021. So, and especially when you're talking about obviously it's the property manager's job to negotiate that. You've got the rapport with the tenant. You need to educate them. You need to say, hey, you love the area, your kids go to this school. We want to keep you in. Our goal is to have a great tenant in long term. However, this is what the comparables are. We don't want you to leave, but you need to pay market value. And then they need to just weigh up, you know, can the tenant afford that increase is a big one. And if they can't, are we just going to keep the rent under market value for the next 5 years to keep the tenant happy and miss out on $5,000 a year or whatever it works out to be? So it's actually very frustrating when I hear about owners not getting and then this owner was going to sign on for $385 for another 12 months.
Yeah.
So it's straight up incompetence, in my opinion, or just laziness / when you work because I worked as a property manager for so long for big companies and then small boutique ones. The boutique ones are, as a whole, if you look at all of them, are probably more likely to be more proactive.
Yeah.
Depends on your property manager, but the big ones, you manage 200 properties. You just want to get the lease out, get it back signed. You don't want to negotiate.
I couldn't agree more. In my experience as well, it's the boutique property management firms more often than not that have a little bit more care factor for their clients or for the investors. And like you said, it's a business. You know, yes, we want to do the right thing by a tenant. We want to give them a good, habitable, you know, home that's nice to live in. But we need to be treating it as a business. We need to be getting market rents, increasing that passive income, improving our borrowing capacity. It's part of a broader strategy for wealth creation. And I think the thing that I sort of took away from that is a lot of people, when they're probably hearing you speak, they're probably like, oh my God, like there's just so many things for me to consider. And that's the reality. Property investing, you know, you shouldn't outsource the accountability. You can't outsource the accountability. Even if you have fantastic people on your team like Jackie, you still need to know enough to be able to sort of partner with them. I don't want to say micromanage them or anything like that, but they're your team members. You need to be able to partner with them, manage them. And whether it's choosing a property manager and getting that right rent, or whether it's choosing the property in the first place, everyone knows my opinion. You shouldn't outsource the accountability. All right. You should not do that, because it's a business, and a true bona fide business, you need to know in and out to actually get the results that you want. The last thing that I might ask you, Jackie, because probably everyone's kind of waiting around for this in terms of dropping suburb names. And guys, by the way, if you're watching this and you're getting value, hit the subscribe button, turn notification bell on. But Jackie, I'll put you on the spot. We didn't talk about this before. Whether it's in the Logan City Council area, which everyone knows personally, I'm not a big fan of most parts of Logan, or whether it's Brisbane City Council or Moreton Bay or wherever, what are some suburbs, not necessarily for capital growth, but you're seeing the rental rise the most, where there's just so much, momentum behind the rental market. And just to preface this, we're buying a lot of properties, or my clients are buying a lot of properties in places like Northern Queensland and regional Queensland as well, where literally, you don't even need to advertise, right? The tenant will beg at your door to pay $50 more than what you advertised for or want, and they'll pay 6 months in advance. So I'm not saying that's the question, but where is the rental market the tightest? Which suburbs are you seeing?
All right. In terms of suburbs, I'm actually going to just put it on a broad one, and I'm going to say lifestyle suburbs. They want to live in, like, with everything with COVID and the property market, people are working from home, everything that goes with it. They want lifestyle suburbs. So in terms of the Gold Coast, like freestanding houses in lifestyle suburbs. So maybe like Mermaid, Nerang, I'm just really
Labrador,
thinking of
maybe
Labrador, Southport. Like, obviously those suburbs are really getting to a high entry point now, but the competition is insane. And so that's the Gold Coast, and the rents very competitive because people want the lifestyle. The other ones on the Bay side, Redland Bay, Capalaba, if you can buy anything Acreage, I know there's other factors to consider with it, but I just recently had an Acreage property it was in Parkridge South, so in Logan, and the owners were anticipating, they just bought it, they renovated it. They were anticipating to get $550 a week. I rented it first inspection for $650. And that's just a 3-1. It's on 4 acres though. And the zoning is encroaching to emerging community. So it's just on the brink. So that was just a great buy in general. So lifestyle, if you can do like the Acreage near the bay, near the water, in the CBD, depends on your entry point. Comparing like 2017, 2018 to now, suburbs like Bulimba and Hawthorn, there was definitely a supply issue back then, where now the more executive homes are getting a lot more than they were then, like $200-300 more. So like the 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom lifestyle homes near the city. Moreton, I'm hearing another one in Bayside was Alex Hills, actually. That surprisingly, that was really
a huge one. I've seen that one as well myself. Yeah,
it was cheap a while ago, and now I'm like, okay. North side, not 100% in terms of, wouldn't put my name to any suburbs.
Okay.
Just as I haven't had any transactions in the last couple of months, and it literally changes like week to week. So lifestyle is what I could say, where it's livable for the tenant.
Yeah, no, that's some great points. And I think last question that I'll just ask very briefly is, how do people gain some comfort that once they've bought their property in, let's say, Brisbane or surrounds, that it's going to be taken care of? Like that sort of fear is always lingering, where, what if the tenant trashes the place? What if they don't pay rent? I'm living in Sydney, I'm living in Melbourne, I can't just drive there and, slap someone up. Not that you can anyway. But, like, what is the role of a property manager? How does a property manager deal with that and sort of allay those fears of, new property investors? Maybe just in a minute or two, if you could cover that.
Yeah, just briefly. So there's a few things. Obviously have a number one, you probably hear it all the time, specialized insurance that specializes in landlord insurance. So Terry Shear, EBM, I know there's a few other little boutiques out there. Get those, because in the worst case, and it happens in the 1%, it does happen, it's not the end of the world, then you're covered and you get the rent back paid, you get the repairs, everything. A competent property manager can clean up, organize the trades to clean up a property fairly quickly, and the landlord insurance will pay the loss of rent. So that should give you a lot of peace of mind. Trusting your property manager is a big one. Like, do you know your property manager? Do you trust them? Because this is an asset, this is a business. You need to trust them as a person on a personal level, that they are taking care of it. So you're not constantly feeling like you have to micromanage, because I think that defeats the purpose of hiring a property manager. But I'll tell you from an insider's perspective in property management is, with like the technology in property management over the last 10 years is amazing. Like when I started, you'd go out and do a routine and like you'd have to type it back up at the office. And that was only 10 years ago. So now, like cloud-based, it's all automated. Like tenant falls behind one day, they get text message automatically. They get an email, they say, where's your rent? In terms of like maintenance requests, it's all cloud-based, it's all there. We can see where it's up to. The system automatically, like, I'd love to take credit for it all, but there's a lot of technology behind it that makes sure your routine inspections are done on time. And then, like Ashley was saying, and I could not agree more, is just the character of picking a tenant. When you pick a tenant with good character and everything checks out and they're a good person and they got a good history, they improve the property, they repair it sometimes, they always pay their rent, they care. And if they lose their job, they have the care factor to make everything right. You know, they clean the place, they do what they need to do with the character. And like, it's never 100, like I don't have 100% character profiling, but the years and the experience are probably like 96, 99%. Like you can pick up on body language and things, and you can see between the lines the more experience they have. So yeah, but when you invest in property, you got to understand there's always a level of risk. You know, the worst thing can happen, but if you have a person you trust on the ground and insurance, I think that should alleviate a lot of that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And action beats inaction 100% of the time anyway. But I couldn't agree more with this comment around character, and even just kind of extrapolating a bit further, not just with your tenants, but also the whole team that, you know, investors build around them: property manager, conveyancer, accountant, mortgage broker. Don't just take referrals. I mean, referrals are a great way to find someone, but assess their character for yourself. Assess, like you said, Jackie, the care factor. I mean, no one really cares about your money as much as you do, but just assess the care factor anyway. It's very character and competence. These two things and care are very important. So look, for what it's worth, I can definitely endorse Jackie, but everyone do your own due diligence. Her company is called My Logan Realty, although she operates beyond just Logan as well, down to the Gold Coast, up into Brisbane City Council, you know, Northwest, East, everywhere. I'll leave the link below, but Jackie, thank you so much for being on the show. And any last words?
We were just briefly speaking before we came on, and we were talking about, I was telling you about a client story where they had red flags with their current property manager and kind of just kept pushing it down, giving them multiple choices. And, you know, we're all human, mistakes happen. But so often in the industry, I see it and I'm like, you know, you're just giving these property managers or this agency chance after chance after chance. And all you do at your barbecues is complain about them and there's issues all the time and it's stressful, and then it makes you not want to invest in properties. So it's actually so easy to change. If you're not happy with your current service, it's literally one click with a DocuSign and we break up with your current agent. Like it doesn't have to be me, it could be anyone, but anyone who you want to give your property to someone who cares. And if you don't feel like your current agency cares, just change, because it's very easy and it's very important because it's a long-term relationship. So you're just prolonging the inevitable before cutting the cord.
For sure. I mean, it's a $500,000 investment or close to a $500,000 investment. You need to have someone, you know, managing it that knows their stuff. So yeah, once again, guys, Jackie Skein here, and she's terrific. And thank you so much, Jackie, for making the time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, guys. So if you got value out of this, if you got some benefit out of it, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on. If you have questions for Jackie, you can comment below. I'm sure she'll jump in on whether it's the Facebook group or on YouTube and hopefully answer some of those questions as well. And lastly, I just want to say, when you have someone like Jackie, whether it's in Melbourne or Adelaide or Perth or wherever, you have good property managers. I say this so much, you don't need a buyer's agent, guys. So I'll leave a link below to my own podcast and also to my Facebook group. Get educated, get educated, get educated. All the best and catch you later.